All right, well, welcome everybody to our business board meeting for Monday, August the 28th, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Bertram, would you call roll, please?
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Here.
Mrs. Stewart?
Here.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Here.
Dr. Urso?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. In a second?
Second.
Any questions? If there are no questions, then Mr. Bertram?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes. Does not appear to be any public participation, but we do have a presentation. We have the honor of introducing Sonia Foltz with Adopted Class, and if you remember, it might have been a year ago, she was able to come and report to us, and just getting a little glimpse of the conversation prior to our meeting, it seems like there's been a lot of activity that we're excited to hear about. So Ms. Foltz, thanks for joining us, and the mic is yours.
Well, thank you, and thanks for everyone welcoming me back a year later. So we've been hard at work here in Middletown. I really appreciate Superintendent Hauser's support as we got busy and started to match your 3rd through 5th grade classrooms initially at Wildwood Elementary. Within 30 days, we were able to match all of your 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms at Wildwood Elementary, and we added Mayfield. And so what you're seeing up here really talks about our year. And, you know, I already told you what we are, but just as a reminder, we're a program now in our 20th year from the greater Cincinnati area to match corporate and civic organizations with your classrooms here in Middletown to prepare your students through caring mentors who come into their classroom 1 hour once a month from October through May as a team of 5 to 8 people from one corporate setting to do career and life skills mentorship. Really not the old lecture that we were used to about I'm a banker and here's what I do. Your 3rd grade were managing stock portfolios. They were deciding whether they buy or sell in a large portfolio. They were building with Hightowers Petroleum. They were building pipelines out of straws and paper cups, and we did have to call the EPA a couple times. We had a few leaks, but we got through it. But it was really an amazing year to watch it grow, to watch companies say yes and step up for our Middletown students. And so at the end of the year, you'll see at the bottom half of this paper that we have 15 mentor teams from 14 different companies and civic organizations mentor 375 of your students. That's about 160 volunteers we put into your schools 1 hour once a month, and that's about a $55,000 value in their volunteer time based on the state of Ohio. So really infused your schools, but what I want to talk about most are who came and showed up for your students. Well, here you'll see the list of who showed up. Many of those names are right here from Middletown. So you'll see My USA, and you'll see Acres Packaging, and you'll see AMS Construction Parts. But you'll also see companies that aren't from Middletown that said yes to Middletown students. So you'll see Merrill Lynch Bank of America, although they do have a branch right here. It was several of their Austin Landing bankers who came down to work with your students. You'll see both Miami University Middletown and Miami University Hamilton, as well as Cincinnati State, came for your students, as well as Valley Central Bank, which is right here, but they also have other branches. And then you have Miller Valentine, you have BGR, that's a Mason company, all coming up to work with your students. They worked with your students, they really made their careers come alive, but then they took their students back to their place of employment. So your students were in the bottom of the Federal Reserve. I don't know how many of you have been in the vault, but it's pretty amazing. Well, they were there. Have you been?
No, but I'd like to.
Field trip next year. You have to volunteer. Your students were out at AMS Construction Parts and Worthington Industries walking their paths every day. AMS and Daniel Million put on quite a show for their students. They actually took a large boulder and dropped it from a crane to see how much weight it would take to crack skids, and your students had to evaluate what it would take. Your students also created a new logo for them that now they wear proudly. So lots of amazing things happening over the last year. If you scroll down, though, you also see we had other experiences your students were able to do. So we took all of your 5th grade students in our program down to the Cincinnati Museum Center. When we surveyed those, we took 1,000 5th graders total in our program, but when we served our students, 47% of the students had never stepped inside Union Terminal. So just walking in the door was an experience, let alone then that they toured the Made in Cincinnati exhibit, looked at 200 years of amazing industrialism in our city and people who created new products and how that now looks in Kroger and P&G and lots of places. And then we worked with Crayons to Computers, a new partnership I know you have here now, and they created what we call our kits to take students and let them become innovators. So we call them innovation station kits. To be quite honest, prior to this year, it was called a pile of junk. And it is a pile of junk from their bins, but your students created and innovated products that then they had to name, present, figure out who the consumers would be and how they would market it. All that day at the Museum Center. So it's just taking and doing everything you're doing with Passport to Tomorrow and elevating it real life for your students all the time with our partnerships. So we're excited to show off some of the things that happened last year, but what we're really excited about is what's going to happen for this year. Deb and I have been working hard. We've been holding meetings over the summer with potential new partners. We just hosted, probably 10 potential new partners this past week. We had another session where our founder came up over the summer and we talked about last year's success and then what this year will look like and have potential partners. We think by the end of this month, by the end of September, when we finish placing teams, that we will completely match Amanda in 3rd, 4th, and 5th for a partner for every classroom, that we will completely match Creekview, and I just told Deb tonight, based on our staff meeting today, that we think we'll need a 5th school this year. So our growth has just been amazing, and I want to remind you that this is at zero cost to the district. We ask your district for nothing other than the time and your teachers' support in doing so. And between your teachers and principals, and it's certainly your central office, we've seen nothing but complete support. We're tying right into what you're doing in your P2T classrooms. I met with all of those teachers over the summer to align what we do. So it is really becoming this perfect partnership to build on what's happening in your classrooms every week in your P2T K-5 setting, and now infuse those professionals from a wide variety of settings in your school. And I want to remind you, if you don't remember from last year, the teams of mentors stay with their teacher year over year. So they get to know that teacher, the classroom, the routines, how they quiet their class. They get better and better every year at what they do because they know what works with 3rd versus 5th graders better. We come and we coach them and help them and train them and support them. As my staff, the students in their 2nd year will be with a new mentor team. So while they may have seen Worthington Industries and learned all about steel industry and how does it work, next year they might be with a City of Middletown team because they're coming on board. They might be with Premier Health because Premier Health is coming on board. So you have a lot of opportunities, 3rd, 4th, 5th, for your students to see 3 different industries, 3 different sets of mentors who tell them they're as capable as any student in the state of Ohio, and we can't wait to see what they're going to be. And now they're getting these layering experiences. So beyond 5th grade, this year your 3rd graders will get to go to a great parks experience in Hamilton County and see park systems and what are all the jobs in park systems. We're really leaning into the STEAM careers because we know our students are underrepresented as adults in STEAM careers. They'll go to the Contemporary Arts Center in Cincinnati. They'll go back to the Museum Center. They'll also go to the Cincinnati Observatory. We're now partnering with Boonshoft. We have an early partnership with Wright-Patt Air Force that we want to get them up to the museum specifically for our Middletown students. It's so close, they should be there. So our goal is to continue to expand to where we fill all of your 3rd through 5th, and then I'll wait for Deb's direction on whether we go down to 2nd or up to 6th. So that's who we are and what we do. We fully staff. We're here. We have staff dedicated to Middletown that comes for your visits. Deb's team does an amazing job highlighting all of what's going on social media, which really helps our presence in gaining new partnerships. But Duke Energy has signed on for this fall. Cintas has signed on for this fall. So we're seeing some of our longtime partners in Cincinnati now say, wait, we have the logistics center. We have our first aid area up here. We want our companies that are now represented up here as well to be partners up here. And we're just excited to see where it goes. So with that, I'll take any questions, or if you wanted to add anything, up to you.
You guys have any questions? I could talk all day about this, so I'm going to open it up for questions, see if you have any questions.
Could you just remind me of how much time per month on average?
It's 1 hour once a month.
1 hour once a month.
We keep it really simple, but let me tell you, it is quite an impactful hour. And so one of your companies, I'll tell a short story. One of your companies is BGR. They're in Mason. They didn't even really know much about Middletown, but said yes because we asked them. And up they came, and let me tell you, your students became philanthropists. They took their food drive that they do every single year at their company and have done for years and turned it into an activity in the classroom. The students in November talked about packaging and how they package things and why the importance of safe packaging and shipping. In December, BGR brought all of that food, an entire truckload, up to the school at Wildwood. The students unpacked it with them, took it into that main beautiful space, that shared space just inside the school doors, and they actually worked with the shipping department of BGR to pack that food appropriately. The boxes had to weigh the right amount, they had to close appropriately, they couldn't be all the same product, it had to be a variety of product in them. And then that food was redistributed here in Middletown and also in Northern Kentucky to families who really could use that extra benefit. So your students were not only learning about packaging, they were becoming philanthropists at such a young age and learning about making an impact right here in their community and other communities. I could go on and on about other things other companies did, but you really have some special partners here who care about Middletown, many of whom had no relationship, and you now have people who show up for Middletown. We're really proud of what they've seen that we all knew was here, and now they know your students are here, and they should be their future employers. So when BGR comes in the room, I can tell you, the adults say, "Who are we?" and the kids all scream BGR. And then they say, "And where are you going to work?" and they all scream BGR every time. But another one of your partners gave every student on their last visit in May a coupon that said, "This is a free interview for you when you turn 18, and told them to turn that in when they're 18 and come interview with them. So your students really are hearing, we want you as our future employers, and that's what it's all about.
Now, I just want to extend, and I know my board members feel the same way, it's a very thoughtful, very practical, and very generous program, and you do a very nice job being an ambassador for it. It's a win all the way around. Hopefully our students capture those opportunities and it's a win for them. Hopefully the employers who are generous and front-loading their time and donating to Middletown are able to benefit of the talents that our young people possess. And so it fits really in line with what we're trying to accomplish. I appreciate our superintendent and the folks who worked around our strategic plan to really merge what we do in schools with what's happening outside of schools. For too many years, we've worked kind of in isolation, and this is a really good program that starts to break down that wall. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and I will say you're not only breaking down the wall for our students, you're breaking down the wall for our corporates. They now know what's happening that's so special in these walls, but they also tell us they now do better in their own relationships within their own corporate settings because they're building new relationships in a way they've never worked with their colleagues. Hightower's Petroleum, Stephen Hightower said, "Sonia, we changed the way we now onboard new employees. We could never learn how to teach them what we actually do. We just now do what we did with our fifth graders. Now they get it." He said, "We just take the same exact lessons and do them exactly with fifth graders." So you're changing them as much as they're changing the impact here in Middletown.
And that's where I think it gives us hope that it's sustainable. I think when all parties are benefiting from a program, you can see that there's incentive and motivation, intrinsic motivation to see it through. So kudos and appreciate that. Thank you.
I can tell you from last year's 15 teams to this upcoming year, there's only one team not returning, and that was simply because of the size of their staff. And it just became too hard. They were a very, very small company in Monroe.
Okay.
Other than that, every team is back. Not
Perfect.
one team said no this year.
Perfect.
So that's a good retention rate.
Yep.
Other questions?
Yeah, I loved your presentation last year when you were here, and I kind of kept thinking, how is this going to mesh together? But it sounds like it's working very well with P2T, and I hope you'll extend our thanks to all those people, because that's a commitment. That's a big commitment to come and work with these kids, and I'm sure the kids are just overwhelmed. I mean, I'm thinking, oh, as a child, what an experience that would be. How fun. And that they're putting enough faith in these children to give them vouchers for an interview when they're 18. I think that's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, and you know, I know our Miami team had them up at Miami, touring the campus, 5th graders. We want you to see yourself here. We want to break down that concept that you don't belong here. You do. And whether it's on our 2-year regionals or at our 4-year. Cincinnati State, same thing. You know, we want your students to see that any pathway that makes sense for them is accessible for them.
Opening doors, that's the important thing.
I think it does also show that the way schools have operated historically and the way that businesses have operated historically, it's been forced to kind of change, and it's nice to see that those changes are happening in Middletown and that our students are not going to be stymied by a lack of progress. And it's nice to know there are employers who are forward-thinking enough to understand the value in getting to know our young people, that they don't drive by school buildings and assume what's inside. They go in and meet the young folks and teachers and adults and understand better what is happening and how that will lend to their future as an employer, and then us as students in our buildings, how it will benefit them too. So.
You know, I think I've said this certainly more than once, but you all are leading the way. We're in now 9 districts. By far, you are the most forward-thinking district when it comes to post-high school pathways and employment for adults.
That's good to hear.
Well, that's because it fit right in with our 5-year plan, so it was a kind of a happy coincidence. This is a question for Randy. Is this sustainable without ESSER money? Is this dependent on ESSER money in any way?
Yes, it costs us 0.
Nothing, yeah,
Okay.
0
That's
cost.
the best value.
So the charge for the busing to go on the field trips, that's taken care of?
Currently, it's taken care of. It's things that we are looking at as we evaluate all the ESSER services. And yeah, some of it's definitely going to be sustainable. We just have to prioritize and decide how we're going to move forward. But at this point,
So within one more year, we will have had it, and the kids in all, up through all the grade schools to exposed to it.
yes,
Yeah, that's good.
yes.
Yeah.
Early on.
And if you recall, we have set dollars aside to continue some of that ESSER for up to 3 more years, just depending if we front load it or spread it out throughout that time frame. So there is quite a bit of revenue, or quite a bit of money set aside for these services.
And do we have a surplus of companies involved, or it's just the right amount right now?
Well, we are quickly growing, Kathy. And then also let me share too, that a lot of times many of these companies will step up and they'll take care of transportation also. Very, very generous. When they open their doors, they take care of everything. They just say, come, load the bus and come.
So most of our transportation costs actually don't come from districts. Middletown has had this opportunity, so we've been able to use that when companies don't pay. But when that becomes a barrier, we go raise more money. So I will never let funding be a barrier to students having these experiences. And I make that commitment to every district I work with. So when it becomes that this money can't be used to take our students on field trips, we go out and we find donors who will. And whether that's here in Middletown, we find donors, and I will give a huge kudos to the Middletown Foundation. They've now offered support for the upcoming year for the staff member that we have here. But we would never let students miss opportunities through any of the experiences or to the place of employment because of funding.
And the teachers accompany the students on the field trips?
Oh, yes.
I should think, yes.
Oh, yes, and then all of the mentors. So those mentors are with them on that field trip, with them walking. So Miller Valentine had your students at a construction site that they were putting up one of those new many townhomes together. Your students were out there walking alongside their mentors, talking about, this is my job here, this is what I do. Then they took them down to their headquarters, and students got to sit in the chairs and spin in the wheels and look down over the city and see what the amazing things look like from a boardroom. But no, it'll never become a barrier. We're committed to that.
I know that we hit the ground running and are still doing that. How long has Adopt a Class been in existence before we joined?
So we've been in Cincinnati and currently are in 45 schools. We've been doing this for 20 years.
Oh,
So we have a very long history. We have graduates from our program. We have a UD student who's just finishing law school from our program. It's a long history, and this is the beginning, and we certainly are committed to the district.
Understanding that 20 years of history, is there data points, is there any kind of measurables that you as an organization have noticed from your inception to now in terms of impact that you've been able to evaluate schools or districts and then see the impact of what this has done across time?
So much like a lot of nonprofits that start, generically straight from somebody who had an idea, the first probably 15 years, not a lot of great data. The last 5, we've been collecting a lot of data, both on the impact to the mentor company and to our students. We have a lot of annualized data, but the longitudinal data we don't have as much. But we're working here with Deb's team to build what are those points we can now track, looking at P2T and us collaboratively, and how do we track where are those students that will have this 3 years in a row, 3rd, 4th, 5th, when they get to 8, and what did that data look like before students were getting these experiences? And now we look at where are they in 8th grade, what are the choices they're making. So longitudinal data takes time,
Yeah.
everybody knows, but I've only been with the organization for 3 years, and I'm a former teacher, so I'm pretty committed to data. Data makes good decisions, and so we're really starting to look at that. We have a lot of annualized data over what our students say, and this past year, 76% of our students said they understand academics and the importance for academics for post-high school success. That's huge. When they can see value in what they're learning in the classroom and why that matters later. So we do have this data that we're starting to get, but again, I came in March 2020. So you throw out the first 18 months, since there's no data that matters. So we're really just starting to build up what would that look like.
Yeah. Okay.
We're excited here because we have pre-data and post-data.
Yeah.
we think of long-standing existence in the community. A similar organization in Middletown is Junior Achievement. Now, are you connected with them?
We are. So we're actually presenting at the Chamber with Junior Achievement in October. So Rick Pierce is doing a What's Up with Education in Middletown, and we're presenting together.
Okay, I know Junior Achievement is a different model over the years, but it does a lot of good too.
I'm a big believer that it's a big spoke, and we're one of those spokes. But if we were in isolation, nothing we do really would make that much of an impact. We're not going to move the needle. But when we have lots of organizations coming together collectively, and that's what's really so exciting here is you're leading the way, especially in workforce development and post-high school pathways, on what you do have in place for students.
So
have
I just
many
ha-
questions.
I'm
I
so-
just one more. Do the military organizations, are they part of it? Do we have a Marine or a Navy person?
We were just
Talking
discussing
about
that.
that.
So we just started, you see our 3rd through 5th grade program, but our 6th through 8th grade program goes more toward pathways. So 6th grade students all see intentionally 2-year pathways and certificate pathways. 7th grade students all see trades pathways and military pathways. 8th grade students all see 4-year pathways. So in the course of 3 years, they see every pathway that should lead, and post-high school employment pathways. So as we build the grades where your students will experience those things, we do have a big military presence in our program. It's just it hasn't come to Middletown yet because you're in a lower grade, but we're really thinking about some opportunities. So we're partnering with the 123rd Airborne out of Springboro. And so they would like, it's a reserves model. They would like to have some presence, and we're looking at Middletown to say it makes sense because you're right here. Same with Wright Cannon. And then all of our seventh graders, 1,000 seventh graders this year down at Lumpkin, doing Imagine Touch a Truck for preschoolers, except it's F-16 flyovers and helicopters and major heavy equipment, and all of our students will go explore every branch of the military. So lots of opportunities, and it's just continuing to grow here in Middletown so that we can afford your students all of those opportunities.
It's just magical. That's all I can say. It's incredible, the partnership that we have with Adopt a Class. It's like it's just a match made in heaven. Exactly what they're doing at Adopt a Class is exactly what we're doing within the four walls of our schools. And the fact that we came together and we partner, it's amazing the doors that have opened because of the partnership. For real, if a company, all they have to do is say yes. And Sonia's group takes it away. And people, they really don't believe you because the majority of people want to help. They want to go in the schools. They want to do something, but they're really not quite sure how to do it, right? So they're always good intentions, and you pull them together. Sonia shares the information, and for real, all they have to do is say yes. It's one phone call, a yes, and the Adopt a Class organization takes over. We provide the teachers in the schools and the students. They take it from there. And they've exposed our children to things that we could have never even dreamt of in such a short amount of time. And it's also like, you know, when you have a good thing that starts, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to start. But boy, once it starts, it just takes off like wildfire. And that's where we are now. So all we have to do, it seems like lately, is call them to the table. Call people to the table. Because first of all, they've heard about the program, right? They've seen Adopt a Class, they've seen how it works, they've heard about it. Call them to the table, explain the program, exactly how it works. And for real, we had a meeting on Thursday. We have a potential 10 new teams ready, and 10 teams will take care of one elementary building in 3rd through 5th. So kudos to Adopt a Class. You guys just are amazing in the work that you do, the connections that you make, and what you bring to the children in Middletown City Schools. So we cannot thank you enough, Sonia.
I mean, it's a pleasure to represent. There are 4,000 volunteers in our program to stand behind it. I just get to be the face of the organization, but to know that 4,000 people say yes every year for 45 schools we're in, impacting about 10,000 students, and it's done not at a dime to any school that we work with, really makes us proud. I have a great board who fundraises to the nth degree. I've gotten pretty good at it, and we're just over $1 million budget, so at 10,000 students impacted, we're also really in what we do, and that's our goal. All the money just goes right. So I invite any of you, anytime,
Yeah.
come out to the classroom. You will have the best time, and you'll really get to see just how amazing your students are, because they are developing and creating and writing marketing plans and just amazing things.
It's beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll be
Thank
back
you,
next
Sonia.
year to say, we're finished with
Yeah.
the elementaries, where are we going next?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We welcome that day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia.
I think our treasurer would like to go to the Federal Reserve. I think
Yes, sir.
he'll sign up.
I'll work that out, I promise. Field trips coming your way.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if they have samples.
Yeah, if they give out parting
I'm not
gifts.
kidding. You'll just be standing there, all glass enclosed everywhere, of course, and they'll go, see that? That skid, those are all $100 bills.
Yeah.
And your students will.
Really?
Equally, they were more impressed with that than they were going to the Red Stadium, sitting literally where Ellie De La Cruz is sitting these days. And I said, you realize who sat here? Like India and Jody Bench. And Harry's looking at me like, not cool.
No.
Go back to the Federal Reserve.
Go back to the Fed.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I got to do that at Yankee Stadium, and I thought it was cool, sitting in their dugout, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you, Sonia.
Thank you so much. All right, on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Any questions regarding the consent agenda prior to a vote? There is a contribution, it looks like $4,500 from Nickerson Business Supplies to Middletown City Schools. Always like to appreciate those contributions, say thank you for
That was
that.
25 cartons of Lysol disinfectant wipes, so
Okay.
much needed. Yep.
Absolutely. Any other items, need clarification, any questions regarding it?
No.
All right, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Moving under business, we have a land purchase, 2939 Cincinnati Dayton Road. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
I believe this is the property by the bus garage? All right, any questions or commentary regarding this?
No. I appreciate the time that was set up for us to go look. That was very informative and helpful.
Yeah, I echo that. I think anytime that we can go physically walk around a space and understand what the value would be long-term and how it really positions ourselves in the short and long-term, it's truly beneficial, so thank you. Mr. Moore, Ms. Mulligan, everybody good? All right, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
All right. All right. Under Student Services, we have a first read. It's a proposed change to Student Code of Conduct. I'll hand it over to Ms. Hauser and allow her to explain.
So we have two areas where we need to update our student code of conduct. The first area is under technology violation. Really, the update that you're going to see reflects the board policy that was adopted. So under technology violation, it spells out the first time, second time, and then third time offenses. What you see in the red print comes directly from Section J, use of electronic communications in our board policy. Okay? Spells out warning, second time, principal can confiscate, third time, same type of consequences, possible loss of privilege. So that's the first area. The second area we have is under tobacco abuse. Same situation. Our student code of conduct language, we're just updating to reflect the board policies. So it's the definition of what tobacco is, you know, from chewing tobacco to vapes to spitting tobacco, that's chewing tobacco, smokeless, dip, it reflects board policy. And that's under tobacco use by students, JFCG. So it's just updating to the policy, current policy language. Any questions?
Any questions? No, I appreciate that work, making sure that everything is as it should be. If there are no questions, that will bring us to committee reports. Any committees meet since our last meeting, Ms. Hauser?
Not the district committees.
Not the district committee. I know the community center committee, we have not met since the last meeting, but I do know the next week or two will be impactful in regards to the bids coming back in. And then city council looking at those bids and deciding, hopefully in conjunction to the board of education. But are there any questions regarding the community center?
We're just waiting.
Just waiting? It's a waiting game right now. So hopefully we're crossing fingers that those bids come back and they're friendly. Really friendly
That's a good
to
way
us.
to
And
put
so if there are no other reports, then that will bring us to Board of Education reports. And Mr. Moore, you can lead off if there's anything to report.
Sure. I just wanted to say congratulations to Mrs. Stewart and the CBI staff for the 21st Century Grant. For folks may not be aware about the 21st Century Grant, this is Ohio Department of Education funding. It's a competitive grant read. It's difficult to get. I know at one time, I believe that CBI was probably the only recipient in Butler County to receive that. So $600,000 that's coming towards our district to help our kids and be engaged after school. So congratulations to Ms. Stewart and CBI.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Scheibert, anything to report this evening?
The only thing I'd like to say is that I am appreciative of all the staff members who are ready to go into action and are nimble responders in any situation to keep our children safe. That makes me happy. And I think it should be reassuring to every parent who has a child in this district. There are plans in place. By golly, we can't plan for every situation, but we got a way to go no matter what. People are here to protect the children. We take good care of the children in this district. And thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibert. Ms. Stewart, anything to report this evening?
Just that Butler Tech is moving right along and has received all of their funding and will be getting ready to start the aviation project over at the airport. So very excited about the opportunity that's going to bring to Middletown and Middletown students, all students, but especially our Middletown students. Want to thank Adopt a Class for the work that they're doing. It is really exciting work that they're doing. And kudos also to CBI, which I'm affiliated with, but I'll still say kudos to Marie Edwards and her team. That $600,000 will allow us to continue to be in all 10 schools here in the district. So these kids are getting opportunities in academic tutoring, enrichment programs, other opportunities that they would otherwise not have. So really excited about the potential of keeping the after-school programs in the classes. I think Debbie might say something about FC Cincinnati ribbon cutting that's coming up on tomorrow,
Tuesday.
Actually, 4 to 5 o'clock. Would encourage folks to come out to that ribbon cutting. Great opportunity for Middletown. So appreciative of the FC Club making that investment here in Middletown. Yeah, I think that's it. I saw a lot of good things happening with the athletic department. I'm sure Chris will say something about kudos to those folks. Keep up the good work, and that's it.
All right, thank you for that. Ms. Mulligan, anything?
Yeah, the policy committee, I think we're caught up, but do we still have a meeting on Thursday?
I don't think we're going to need that meeting.
Okay.
I'll verify tomorrow and let
Okay.
everybody know. I'm still working on getting the policies uploaded so the board can see them and approve them. It's a whole new process, and I'm struggling a little bit with that, but hopefully I get that figured out and we start getting them on the board agenda.
Well, I know one of the last ones we reviewed was the student conduct, so the tobacco policy, I guess, it
Yeah.
syncs with ours.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's it. It has been a challenging opening to the school year, though, and the administrators had to keep their cool, and the teachers had to keep their cool, and the kids had to keep their cool. So I haven't heard of anything bad about coming out of that, except it was just unfortunate and always troublesome. That's all.
I'd like to just raise up a couple of our athletes. As you had indicated, I know our football team is 2-0. They got off to a really nice start, beating Loveland and then also Coleraine, and Colerane's always a good victory. And I believe we're the Gold Star team of the week on week 1. And so do we get free? They get free food every win.
Get a
If
free coney.
Free coney.
Every win, a free
And
coney.
so I'm hoping they put them out of business. And so lots of wins this year. And I do believe Jerry Landers is up for Player of the Week, WLWT, and I think people can go on and vote and vote for Mr. Landers. I know our cross-country folks, Bree Boyle placed 4th, and I know it's a swarm of people when they take off a race. So placing 4th is an accomplishment. And Curtis Fowler, I think he placed 13th in a race just recently, which again, a lot of kids out running, and to be in the top 10 to 20 is a huge accomplishment. I know Paris Hitchcock scored the game-winning goal against Norwood and got our soccer coach her first victory as a midi coach. And I know our boys soccer team has started 1-0-2. They have 2 ties. I'm not a big fan of ties, but they have 2 ties. They tied with Fenwick, and then just the other night tied with West Claremont. And I know Connor Murphy's gotten off to a really good start for the boys soccer team. Want to echo the 21st Century Grant. That's a huge accomplishment, a huge influx of resources to our students, and a lot of work goes into that. And it's kind of silent in the community. I don't think everybody knows how much time goes into it and what kind of impact it has for our young people. And all the folks who worked on that, we really do appreciate that. And we do know it helps our students so very much to have extended time after the day, to have adults who are really skilled in working with them. the return on that investment is huge for us. And I think it's unnoticed. And I think it's unfortunate that it's unnoticed because it is so important. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then to our teachers and students, it's on. I mean, we're going. It's nice to kind of pull up to school with my daughter every morning and see a bunch of young, excited young people walking into the building, our beautiful buildings. Really so proud of our facilities here in Middletown. It's nice to see our football stadium looking so nice. It looks like it got a fresh coat of paint over the summer. It looks really good. And just really excited for this year and really excited for our young folks that it's a very good year. I know over at Miami, we have around 20 to 30 young people who are part of the Early College Academy, and today was their first day of school. And it was fun seeing a bunch of young, excited juniors and seniors who are getting a head start. What's that?
2 cohorts.
Two cohorts. We have the seniors are outflanked by the juniors, have about double the number of young people within that junior class. So a lot of good things, and really appreciate our leadership who helped make that happen. So Mr. Bertram, Ms. Hauser.
Yeah, well, first of all, before I forget, the resolution you just approved for the purchase of the land, I need all 5 of you to sign that tonight, please, before you go. And the item that I want to bring up tonight, other than I think you forgot one, I think we had a cross-country young man with a 16:02 time finish first.
Who was that?
I can't remember his name. I remember reading the tweet, but can't remember.
See, I was going through the tweets really
my
quick.
Apologies.
Should have been better.
But yeah, we had a first place finish out there.
All right.
So that was exciting. Real estate evaluation, I know it hit the paper that the state taxing department is going through a 3-year process with every county in the state, bringing counties, they say we're way behind in the valuation process, that the county auditors have been under-evaluating the values of residential and commercial properties. I'll talk about Butler County. We're one of 17 that was reevaluated, and come January 1st, our residential increases are going to be on average 37% higher. Yeah, it's very high. They're not done with the commercial and industrial yet. I'm hearing those may come in between 8 and 10% higher as well. I have talked to both Butler County Auditor and the Warren County Auditors, and to see what our options are. I know there's been word out there that maybe schools could forego inside millage. And I'm just going to say that that is not an option for a school district. The way the funding stream works, if we forego any of our inside millage to lower the rates, hence taking away that 37% increase, not only do we lose that, but we also lose state funding because the valuation still stays the same. And in the eyes of the state, the more valuation we have, the richer we become, the less state funding we receive. So it's a double-edged sword. And I will share that our legislators are working to find a fix to the increases. May it be through the 20 mil floor, lowering the values of 20 mil floor, say maybe it's an 18 or a 16 mil threshold. Not sure if they're going to get much traction with that or not. I know county auditors aren't in favor of that. So there are legislative committees, there are auditor committees, and there are also OASBO, my professional organization, does have a committee that we're researching it as well from a treasurer's perspective. I'm one of 2 treasurers in Southwest Ohio that's currently serving on that committee. We have our first meeting coming up this week. So a lot of research is going into this. So what's best for moving forward with the evaluation process in the state of Ohio. Didn't really know it was broke. I'm not going to say it's broke, but some people are saying the system is broke because evaluations are increasing much higher than anyone anticipated. For some of those that have been around since the early 70s, when inflation was 16 to 18 to 20%, valuations did the same thing. They put in place House Bill 920, which created effective millage that solved for that problem. However, 50% of the school districts now are at that 20 mil floor, that baseline, and any increases that come up, our millage can't drop below that, so we do see additional revenue because of that. So the state seems to think maybe that's the problem, the 20 mil floor. But school districts need to know that we do have a guarantee of revenue from real estate. So a lot of conversations going to be had in the next year over this situation. And I will tell you that I'll be looking at it from a school district perspective with my fellow professionals across the state. One thing that we do every year is school districts, we reevaluate our bond millage. Currently, our bond millage is 8 mils per year that we collect to help pay for our buildings. All the bonds that we've gone out and sold through the years that make the payments for all the construction that we did. I always have flexibility in that bond valuation to say, do we need more, do we need less? By law, we have to collect enough to pay for the bonds. There's no option to that. We actually raised the millage a little bit when the valuations dropped a few years ago, because millage went the opposite direction, first time that ever happened. But we are in a position now that I'll probably be able to lower our bond millage from 8 to 7.5, maybe 7.25, which will help on the real estate and bring the taxes down a little bit to offset some of the increases that our homeowners and our business owners will see. But we're working on it. It's new to us.
How often are the reevaluations done? Did you say every 2 years?
The reevaluations happen every 3 years.
3 years.
They do a paper one at 3-year interval, which happens every 6 years. But in between those 3 years, there's an actual reappraisal where the appraisers come out and walk around every property in every county to see if you've added any structures, if you built onto your house, if you've added a pool. So it's a physical reappraisal other than coming in the home. And I guess these weren't keeping up with what the state said the values are. Problem is, values have been rising much higher within 3 years
Right.
than the reappraisals. That's another option. Do they want to order county appraisers to do it every 2 years or every year instead of every 3 years? Don't know. Don't know what the answer, the solution's going to be. I do know the 2 county auditors that I spoke to seem to think it's not broke. It's just the new norm because of a low inventory that's out there for homes, especially with interest rates going up as high as they are. 95% of homeowners, I'm just talking residential, have interest rates below 5%. Only 5% are in that upper echelon between 5 and 7.5 or 8% now for some mortgages. So people aren't selling their homes just to get out of a low interest loan to go into a higher. 1/3 of all the homes on the market right now are from new builds, new construction. And those are the houses that are selling quicker than anything right now. So it's kind of a unique situation that we're in, but it's an inflationary situation that has created this.
When does the district have to decide what we're going to do in terms of forgoing or lowering the millage? When,
Well,
because it'll go into effect at first, right?
January 1st is, anytime after January 1st, the new taxes, usually they bill in late February into March for Butler County. That's when tax bills will go out for collection. Superintendents and treasurers actually had a collective Zoom call a couple weeks ago to talk about this because we wanted to work as a group in Butler County to see how districts felt. There are districts out there that are destitute. They can't pass levies. They're struggling. They do need that 37% increase. Each school district's different. We're one of the highest out there. Anywhere from 23% to 39%, I think, was the highest in Butler County. And they just can't forego the inside millage. It doesn't make sense to do that for any district the way it's established with our state funding. It just works counterproductively. But decisions as far as the bond goes, I'll probably have a decision on that October at the latest. Yeah.
Do landlords typically increase the rental fees when this tax business takes more of their profits?
I couldn't hear
Do landlords increase their
The
rent for
rent.
properties to offset the cost of the increase in taxes?
Typically, there's a delay in that. Once they see that their tax bill has gone up, next time they sign a contract with tenants, yeah, they'll see an increase.
We're always reading that the percentage of homeowners in Butler County is low compared to other places.
A lot of
So-
rentals.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the other side of it. When you talk from a fairness, if, just say arbitrarily, we could afford to forego inside millage, and we say instead of receiving the 4 mills that we get now, we're only going to take 2 mills for a year. You may have a lot of parents out there saying, but those are revenues you're taking away from our students. That's possibilities that our kids could have more services that are needed. So there's two sides to look at that, not just from the tax side, but the service side of that. My worry too is if we did something like that, then the state comes back with a fix or a solution, we may be losing money in the long run as well, where we wish we would have had those dollars in the future. We don't know what's going to happen. It's a tricky situation. I don't know what's right and what's wrong at this point. I just want to be a good listener and problem solver if we do feel there is a problem in the long run.
Having committees and having conversations is one thing. Do they have anticipated answers? Because when we talk about timing, your question is important in terms of we as a board making decisions. If those committees don't have any kind of clarity in terms of what they're going to do, is it just status quo and moving forward? Or what happens in January if those committees don't come to conclusions that are amendable between everybody involved?
Well, I can tell you as far as my committee as OASBO, we're going to make recommendations. We're going to go up, we're going to testify in front of the state legislators about whatever they're intending to do and say, here's the pros or here's the cons to what legislation they may want to change or pass to maybe alleviate this from happening in the future. So we're advocating for school districts. The county auditors are going to advocate from their perspective of assessing valuations and what it means, for all the entities that they represent, the cities, the townships, the villages, the fire, the police, ambulance, mental health, even art centers, and everyone that collects taxes is going to be affected by this. And
this is every county in Ohio is going through the
in
same
the
thing.
next 3 years, every county in Ohio, absolutely. Next year it's Warren County. This year it was Butler County, and of course we have properties in Warren County that will be affected next year, not this year. So it is tricky. It is big. Of course. Next year, me living in Warren County, I'm going to see a big increase because we'll probably be at 40% in Warren County, close to what Butler County is here. I don't know what the answers are, and I just know when I put on my treasurer's hat and I work for OASBO, I'm looking at it from the school district perspective.
Randy, I had a question. In terms of the bond term, what is the bond term currently, or debt obligation towards the bond?
Currently, we're paying about $7.5 million a year for our bond retirement fund, and I'm sitting on about $7.5 in carryover.
And the
So I've got
term,
wiggle room there.
how much longer? What's the term on that bond?
Oh boy, well, we just did 28 years when we built the high school and the middle school. I think it was 28 years. I'd have to double check that. So we've got another 24 to go on that one. And then we've probably got another 15 or so on the 2007 buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question, though. When that millage falls off, yeah, that's a savings to taxpayers, too, if you don't put anything in its place. Yeah.
We good? On a lighter note,
I
Didn't
feel like
go
we've
that
been
deep.
through.
on a lighter note, Tuesday, September 5th is our first personalized learning day. This year, if you recall, last year we added 3 personalized learning days to the calendar, which is a unique opportunity for our students. The personalized learning board, choice boards, that information went out today. So you should have received it today in an email as a parent, where our students get to choose. They have the opportunity to choose their learning for the day. Just wanted to highlight a couple of those experiences. We have a few of our Ready Now 100 partners opening their doors on September 5th for our students to go in and tour. We have Midpoint Library. Midpoint Library consistently offers different activities for our students. This year they're having a scavenger hunt on the 5th for our students. So you just show up at Midpoint Library for some learning. Also, I'd also like to point out that CBI on our personalized learning days, I don't know if many of you knew this, but they offer field trips for our students on personalized learning days. Last year they went to Wright-Patt Air Force Base. I think you went to Boonshoff last year. And this year they're also going to be offering field trips for our students on personalized learning days. We have that going on. It's also an opportunity to go visit colleges, Dr. Urso. I know you're in that world right now. So just so parents are on the lookout for the personalized learning day choice boards. And students, remember, it's your day of learning, and you need to submit one artifact at the end of the day, and you will be counted in attendance after your personal day of learning. Yep, and that's all I have.
I had a researcher in the audience tell me that Curtis Fowler finished first at the Bob Scholl Invitational
Oh, there
in
you
cross
go. All right.
country.
I got his
There you go.
13th place. I think he would be more proud of his first place.
Yes,
Probably.
yes. And Bree Boyle was 4th place. I think you had
Yeah,
said that.
I got Bree on that one. Any other items?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved?
Second.
And a second for Ms. Mulligan.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Have a good night.
You have